values. When we speak about Franklin telling, we can imagine different kind of things, and we don't know what we can expect yet. In this case, our story starts with an interesting conversation between two men. One of the men said to the another man that he had a son, and he loved his son, and another man, uh, they continue speaking, and one of the men said to another man that he wants that he tell a story, and the man said that he don't know the rhetoric, that he don't know the color of a speech, that he don't know how he is an unlearned man, and he continues saying that he wants listening in a story, and one of the men that wants to listen in the story said that let me listen in one or two words or your mouth, and he said okay, and they continue. But our story, it is really interesting. Our story starts in Armonit. It is in a beautiful place. I can imagine, and said that there are a gentleman or a nymph that love in a beautiful woman, and he had labors under the sun, and he worked hard to have this girl, and he want to get married with this girl, and he loved she. And it is interesting because after he continued working under the sun, after he do all the things that he want to do for to have the girl that he loved, he could get married with this girl, and they are in loving. But it is really interesting because they could to have a good life per 2 years. During 2 years, they were really happy. Could you imagine? He had the girl that he loved, and she had the man that she loved. It is really interesting. But something interesting happened during the story. What happened? In this case, her, her husband, her name is Aberagus, go to work far, and he moved to move to another place. And the interesting part of the story continued because her husband was go away, and she was lonely in her castle. Remember that this man was an anil, and he had money, and he had a beautiful house, I suppose, but she was lonely in this place, and she don't have the opportunity to live during many years with her husband. This girl is called Dorigen. Our story continues in another way when he go away because she was lonely, and she had a friend. I suppose that was her best friend. She supported to she, and but Dorigen all the time was in a bad mood. All the time she was sad about her husband, and she don't know what she could do because she missed her husband, and her husband was far of she. Could you imagine? It was really difficult for her she because she loved to this man. One day she was sitting in front of the sea, and she was thinking, and she asked to go. Why go? Why go? Why you create these rocks? Because her husband was traveling in a ship, and she imagined that her husband could have an accident with these rocks because there are in the biggest rocks in front of the sea, and this rock could produced in a terrible accident. She was imagining that her husband would die in the way, and she was thinking about, and she asked to go, and she was making questions to go, and she said, "Why go? Why you create these rocks?" And she felt worried about it, but she continued, and she go to home. And when she was in her home, her best friends tell to she that, my friend, we will have a party, and her best friend invite to she to the party, and she was in the party, but she didn't enjoy the party because she was really sad, and she was tired because she missed her husband. She had a beautiful garden in her house, but she don't have her husband. And was really interesting because one man was dancing and singing in front of she, and this man made different kind of theme because he wanted to call the attention to the original. He was a scholar man. He was an enemy, and this gentleman had money. This gentleman was an interesting man, but the most interesting is that this man was in love of she, and he didn't know how to say to she that he loved she, but he know that she was married and she loved to her husband, but he continued dancing, and the reason dancing the party, but she didn't enjoy the enough in the party. This man tell, had the opportunity to speak with the regent, and he said to she that he loves she, and and she said that, I am married. I I can. This is can be possible, but I love you. He said, and he asked for an opportunity to she, but she can't give an opportunity, and he continued speaking, and he said, why? But madam, I there are something that I can do for to gain your love. And she said that if you could move the rocks that there are in the sea, you could gain my heart. But he said, but man, it is impossible to do it. It is impossible to move this biggest rock. And she said, but it is that my heart wants. And he was really sad because it is really difficult for you mind to move the rocks that there are in the sea. It is complicated. But this man go away of the party and go to home. When he was in his home, this man was called Aurelius. Aurelius was a million, I suppose, because he had inherent heritage, and was really interesting because he was depressed, and he was really sad because he can have the women that he loved. He he go to he was in a bad mood, but the worst thing was that he was sick. He was sick because he loved these women. He loved the origin. I can tell you that he was sick of love, and he was depressed. He can't walk, and he didn't give a step. He was in the bed because he wanted to have the hair of the origen, but he can have. One day, her brother was thinking about what he can do for to her brother, and he remembered about a book that he had read. This man, this book was about to the magic or something similar to magic, and he was thinking in this book, and at the moment he remembered that he could found in a philological man, and it was really interesting because he was thinking in this man, and he said to to his brother that they need to travel to our lands because they need to find this man. The brother of Aurelius was a man that had a study, and he knows uh, to this kind of men that know about magic and that know astrological things, and was and he said to his brother that they need to travel, and they went to Orleans and they meet to the philosophical man, and he said, I know why they are why you are here, and he said, and they said that they need help. Aurelius was sick, but he traveled because he wanted to gain the heart of this girl, and this man and showed to Aurelius that he can make different kind of illusions, and Aurelius believed that this man can help him because this man had learned how to be cheating or how to be illusion for the people, and the people believed in the illusion that this man make. But it was really interesting because Aurelius in this moment was sitting. He didn't have enough money, I think, but his brother was worried, and he proved all the auction that they have. And it was interesting because he said to Aurelius that he can help him. And after they go to home again, and Aurelius was reading in a book about to magic or different kind of things because I speak about astrological things, and he was learning, and he had a debate with this man because this man said to him that he could help him if he paid 100 pounds, and Aurelius accepted these things. The man could make the illusion to move the things because Aurelius was thinking, because Aurelius believed in the gods, and he asked him for a favor to the god of love. He was asking for help to the Pluto, and he was asking for help to the Fibores, and they are the gods. And for his surprise, this man can make the illusion that he wants, and he moved the rocks. And he said to the origen that he could move the rocks. And when he showed to the origen that the rock that isn't there, she was scattered because she can't believe that the rocks were moved. But the worst thing was that her husband was again in her house. She was happy and she loved to her husband. But the worst thing was that she moved to accept that thing that she said to Aurelius, because she said that if he moved the rocks, she could love him. But she had her husband. She had an interesting land, but she go to home and she said to her husband that that she made a promise to Aurelius, and her husband was thinking about what they can do, and her husband told to she that she need to to make really her promise, because she had promised and this man, and the honor that this man, it is important. I think that this man wasn't a great man, because he gave the opportunity to her house, to her wife, to get married, to stay with another man. But Aurelius was thinking about it, because he was thinking that she loved her husband and that Dorigen never can love him. And Dorigen was worried, and she arrived to the garden, the beautiful garden that Aurelius had, and she was prepared to say Aurelius that she will be to do her promise really. But but she had an interesting surprise. Why? Because she because he said to she that she moved to be with her husband, because she loved him. And Aurelius wasn't a good man, and he knew that he had the debt, because he debt money to the man that held him. But she had only her books about or his table, and she was lonely. But he knew that wasn't a bad idea to have to Dorigen on her house, in his house, if she don't love him. And he go away, and he said the story continues with a man explain the love of Dorigen and in Averagus. And this said that it is in a big love, and give some example of the story. But Aurelius was lonely, and Aurelius tell the story to to the man to the man that had heard him, and he said all the story, and he said that was really difficult for him to leave to the women that he loved, but he know that was necessary, and he said that he moved to pay the debt that he had with this man, and he need to solve that his heritage, and he needs to ask forgiveness to his family, because he will solve his heritage. And for his surprise, the another man said to Aurelius that his £100 was forgiven, because he had made an a biggest surprise for him, because he had left to the women that he loved. And Aurelius was really surprised about it. At the end of the story, the narrator said, who was uh, more forgiveness, Aurelius, or the man that forgiveness the debt of Aurelius? But in Franklin Tallis, we can we can watch the morals and values that they had, because they, they are gentlemen and women that may that that are interesting, because they had a promise, and they made really this promise, and they had really interesting values. For example, the family, for example, the love, the promise, and the respect, and in others. Okay, it's all about Franklin Tellis. Thank you so much.